If we step out to the vast expanse of intergalactic space, thousands and thousands of light years, we see our galaxy as this small thing, like a child's plaything, a bright, glowing bauble in the middle of a starry night, one of trillions upon trillions of galaxies that inhabit the depths of space. Here we find no air, no water, indeed little in the way of matter at all, and it might be hundreds if not thousands of light years from one star to the next. It is cold in the deep depths of this space, near absolute zero, and in these vast, black depths, there are only the haunting echoes of the birth of our universe, appearing in the form of background radiation. And if we close on our galaxy at thousands of light years per minute, in any single second of this journey, we have traveled further than all the combined humans. From the depths of prehistory until this very moment, even if you were to take all their journeys by air, land, sea, and even space travel, and put them all one by one in a line, adding them one upon the other, all their journeys, all put together, would be minuscule, completely unnoticeable in the depths of the cosmic void. Having entered the Milky Way, our galaxy, we continue speeding at thousands of light years per minute, passing by in our route countless stars, countless star systems, worlds upon worlds, each single one so far away that by the best technology available to us, getting to them would take longer than has existed all of human civilization. And even if we could reach them, what would we find? In our fictions, in the tales we like to tell ourselves, perhaps to comfort us against the deep, dark vastness of these cosmic depths, we imagine that we step out into this endless void, find these worlds, and adapt to them, or perhaps conquer them, making new homes of them. These imaginings are comforting, but they presume so much, that one day we will develop the means to travel among the stars. And yet, we literally do not know if such technology is possible. And even if we could reach them, even if we found worlds with other life, with air and seas of their own, we don't know if we could live there. Could we tolerate the life that we found there? Could it tolerate us? Could humans live generation after generation upon a super-Earth with many times Earth's gravity, or a micro-Earth, perhaps a Mars-like world, that has somehow managed to retain its atmosphere and its magnetic field, but also with low gravity? We just don't know. All these things are suppositions, wilder, in fact, than the strangest fairy tales of our ancestors' deepest dreams. No, in all the cosmic void of the entire universe, there is just one place that we know that we can live, that we know for sure. Let us slow down as we approach it, lest we pass it by, because by sight from space, it is truly unremarkable. A small, yellow star, one of the most common star types in the entire galaxy, with a few unremarkable gas giants and rocky worlds spiraling around it. No, from the depths of the cosmic void, there is no particular reason to glance this way, toward this one place where our kind might live. And yet, unremarkable as it seems, it is the most precious and valuable place in the entire universe. As we approach, it seems to reveal its specialness, as its single yellow star brightens like a diamond against the night, a gem that creates its own light, a bastion against the darkness of space and time. And yet, even here, where it brightens in the darkness, we are far, far away from any place where the human species might thrive. We are yet beyond even the reach of the furthest of human journeys through the machines we have tossed into the stars, such as the Voyagers, which only recently have left the confines of our own solar system. But if we're patient, we'll get closer, closer, as we race across the void with a speed only possible in our wildest imaginings. There, just there, if you look below that flaming star, you can see the first glimmer of a truly special place, though even now it appears to be something unremarkable, a mote, the slightest bit of dust, floating in a vast and immeasurable firmament, even now barely remarkable. But for we who call ourselves human, we who are from the planet Earth, it is the most important place in existence. And there it is, just out there, so close perhaps we might feel as if we can almost grasp it. And yet even here, so close to that sparkling blue mote just beyond, now within our own solar system, even here, there is no place where we humans might live. No place we could truly call a home. Only there, our hope is there, somewhere perhaps upon that small blue dot. But we must slow our speed even more, for if we continue to travel at the rates it takes to cross the expanses between the ocean of stars, we would pass by our sun and our world in an instant, so fast the entire Earth would seem only a blur, so little is it. And thus we slow to a cosmic snail's pace, and that single sparkling dot begins to take on a kind of definition, a new resolution against the night, even as our sun becomes so bright it blots out the vision of stars beyond it. Let us adjust our camera so that we may gain perspective and see the cosmos beyond our world, and recall that this little blue mote is one of countless worlds to haunt the night. Ahead, that world begins to resolve, and we see beyond it just another world, our moon, Luna. And so that we do not bypass it, we must slow our speed even more. In the scale of the universe, it must seem as if we are no more than a microbe, covering an utterly insignificant distance, no more substantial than the depth of a water droplet between a microscope slide and the coverlet placed upon it. You can see it almost clearly now, perhaps still lacking definition, but it is out there, and we are moving toward it beyond a shadow of a doubt. One small blue world, one deeply troubled world, where, in the 4.5 billion years of its existence, quite young in the grander scheme of the cosmos, it has seen life rise and fall many, many times, and countless species coming into existence, and some for a time seeming indomitable as if they would exist forever, only to, upon some slight change in the way of things of this world, to fade away into nothingness, only to be remembered as imprints upon stone and fossilized bone, if they are remembered at all. Each one of these species, within the shelter of that little blue troubled world out there, in its time upon this world, must have thought it existed in a vast place, the center of the universe, presuming it was capable of such thoughts at all. And perhaps what makes our species truly unique is we alone have been able to look past the confines of our world, beyond the sheltering veil of its dense atmosphere, and not just ponder those lights above that sparkle in the night, but cast our eyes beyond this world and truly look back and see how small we are against the night. But even though we alone have done this, cast probes among the stars and pondered our place in the universe, all too often we forget the lessons of what we have seen, the lessons that our troubled little world is small and fragile, the lessons that countless species have come and gone before us, and there is no reason to presume, if we are not cautious, that we should be any different. No, instead, somehow, we manage to convince ourselves that we live at the center of things, and even that we hold dominion over some vast realm. But even now, as we approach this world, and its shape and size begins to resolve before our eyes, it is doubtless difficult for we humans, mesmerized by our intellects, our appearances, our possessions, and our own brief lives, to truly grasp how small is that place where we may live, how fragile and how precious, because just as only the tiniest portion of the entire universe is known to us to be a place where we can live, even upon this world, there is only a thin sliver that is a place where we may truly thrive. We will not find a similar place among the planets and moons that share our own solar system. We will not find a similar place, this thin sliver, this living mile, even upon the surface of our own moon. We will only find this sliver thinner, far thinner than the shining crescent our world now appears to be before us, on the surface of our world, extending from little below the soil beneath our feet to no more than a mile or two overhead. In the scale of the cosmos, even at the comparatively diminutive scale of worlds, We ourselves are yet very small beings, and though in our myths and perhaps in our minds we like to tell ourselves we are the master of this world, destined perhaps to one day inherit the cosmos, the simple truth is, in all the known universe, where we can live, where we can truly thrive, is upon that blue bauble. It's not the world itself, but that thin living mile on its surface from sea level to about a mile above. Now Earth herself is about 8,000 miles in diameter, just a little less. And if we were to imagine our world reduced to the size of a beach ball, that living mile, that place we think is so vast that we call our own, would be no thicker than the thinnest coat of paint, an almost unnoticeable brush of paint, thin as a wisp, and imagining the momentary idea of a god. And we humans, in our hubris, convince ourselves that this small sliver, this living mile, is immutable. And yet compared to the scale of the cosmic void, the stars and planets, the energies that flow throughout it, this living mile is more fragile than the most delicate eggshell. And likewise, so are our existences, because we are entirely dependent upon it. Yet somehow, we cannot reckon with this reality. We turn ourselves perpetually to war, and when not warring, we throw our efforts into greed. And in the doing, we set aside the water and the air that even make this living mile possible. And we cast aside the other earthlings, the other beings that share with us this living mile, and they themselves make this existence of ours possible. I think if nature herself is sentient, if there is some aware and thinking Gaia that presides over our earth, then that being must be truly dismayed. We are a species, perhaps the only species, that can contemplate who we are in contrast to the depths of the cosmos. And yet, with a whole vast universe out there beyond us, we cannot seem to turn ourselves to the essential task of taking care of this living mile, let alone ourselves. But this is the truth of the living mile. It extends from the ground beneath your feet and perhaps a few feet beneath that, among the living ecosystem that churns and nourishes the soil, and then to the surface all around you, what scientists call the biosphere, that green living place that plants, fungi, and animals share in an ongoing and well-balanced dance that creates oxygen and absorbs carbon, that creates nutrients through a self-recycling ecosystem, that balances the atmosphere so that it is clean and breathable, and protects us from our own star, whose light unshielded is much too strong. And though the living mile might seem as vast and impervious as the silent stars overhead, the truth is that, not so unlike us, it is small and fragile, and not so unlike us, it must be cared for. And if we cannot think of the welfare of our world, we might at least think of ourselves, because we cannot live without it. As I ponder the living mile, how important and fragile it is, my mind keeps going back, inexorably, to the unfortunate question, can we, as humans, become capable of really and truly caring about something? Not merely for what we should get out of it, but for the sake of everything else, everyone we love, and every living thing? And I just don't know that answer, in truth. I would like to say yes. I would like to believe that we can turn our thoughts to becoming better creatures, and really caring for this world to make it a better place, for all of us and all the creatures that share it with us. But in this new century, this new millennium, we on this world once again find ourselves facing the very likely possibility of another global war, and so much death for ambitions so trivial as another tiny, insignificant in the vastness of the universe piece of territory. If we are willing to so trivially toss away the lives, the hopes, the dreams, and the loves of those with whom we share this world for something so hideous as war, can we ever hope to overcome the baser instincts that enable our industries to ultimately destroy the living mile? Our survival as a species depends on the answer, and logic itself would dictate that, yes, surely we as intelligent beings must be able to accomplish this. I just don't know. My background is behavior psychology, and in this field we have a saying, much like that of historians, that history is the best predictor of the future. And the answer to this question is that, quite simply, history is not on our side. Historically, we humans have never been able to manage as a species altruism for very long. Occasionally we set our eyes upon it, but soon, within this generation or the next, we lose that vision and return to baser pursuits. Can the living mile withstand the disaster, the nuclear disaster that could well become of a World War III should it occur? And if, should we be so lucky, World War III does not occur, can the living mile withstand the avarice of our industry much longer? I don't know, and no one does. Scientists assess the data and make predictions based on the trends. And at this time, the data indicates the living mile has been hammered by blow after blow. And the trend is, the living mile, quite frankly, is dying. I think if we pull together in hope and fraternity, we could save it. But to do so first, we would have to be willing to save ourselves from ourselves. And perhaps that begins by stepping back and looking at the scope of the universe and contrasting that against the reality of our tiny, fragile world, along with its little bubble of a living mile, to remind us all of our fragility, our mutual need of compassion for each other and this world. For if we do not, we're likely to become just one more story in the sunset of extinction. Thank you for watching. The Naturalist program is committed to the reliable coverage of natural science and environmental issues. If you like our program, please take a moment to subscribe and like.